how to contact you guys. And at the same time, we'll be getting that all out, the video once it's done, all out to you so you can actually have a copy of it. And it'll be on the media as far as on the web and everything and Facebook, so that people in the community will be able to really watch it since they haven't been here. So we're trying to do three things at once. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have you guys introduce yourselves when we start, go down the line, and then we're going to actually go we'll start on this side, and you guys will have a chance to talk about your organization, about Foster Care Month and everything, and some of the things and issues that you're dealing with, and then we'll just go down the line, say about 10, 15 minutes, and then we'll all have some people over here might ask questions, or people online might ask questions, or we might ask questions. Okay. I'd like to thank everyone to actually come out for the SCIPP Interactive Parks program on foster awareness. We're also excited about being here in this beautiful building. And we have Pastor Bob back there videotaping us live. And thank you very much, Pastor Bob, for allowing us to be here with your church, making this happen. And right now, what I would like to do is let you know that in Foster Awareness Month, we're wanting to actually give awareness to the community on how much these kids impact our town, our community, our state. And I think we'll actually have a lot of knowledge and information from these panel of people with different organizations, letting you know the real, true heart about foster kids. And what I'd like to do quickly is have everyone introduce themselves on the panel, and from there we're going to actually listen to their stories about Foster Care Awareness Month and their organization or their private individual contacts.
So my name is Sarah Freeman. I'm from the Scott County Children's Division. I usually do the licensing for the home, so if you're interested in being a foster parent or respite provider or even emergency provider, I'll be the one to help get all that set up.
My name is Lamonte Nelson, and I also work for Scott County Children's Division. And I work in the resource department. I mostly help foster parents with guardianship and adoption.
Rita Spence, and I am the supervisor over the resource department. So I oversee the licensing, placements, and the adoption and guardianships, but just for the resource department.
I'm Steve Gentry. I'm a farmer foster parent, and I was in the system for like 16 years, and I'll have my story here in just a minute.
I'm Jordan Gentry, and I was in foster care.
My name is Sharon Heilman. I am the Executive Director for Voices for Children, CASA. We cover 2 circuits, the 32nd and 33rd, which encompasses Cape, Bollinger, Scott, Perry, and Mississippi counties.
And my name is Donnie Cobb. I'm an attorney. I do quite a bit of guardian ad litem work where you represent the kiddos that are currently in care. I've really been on all sides of the courtroom, though. I've represented really every different party that's in the matter.
Okay, these are our panelists, and as I said, we're going to go down the line and get some ideas and knowledge from their organizations and their experiences, and then after that we're actually going to have some questions and engage in some conversation about this topic. So first,
I know for sure in this county we're in desperate need of foster parents. We just don't have very many. We have different types of fostering. We can do the permanent foster parents, which can lead to adoption. We can do respite care, which is kind of like babysitting for foster parents. So, they can have that break also, just like any other parent could have. We have emergency placements when a child comes into care. As an emergency placement, you can help take care of that child for 30 days until we find a more permanent place for these children to go. I know when it comes to fostering, we're needing parents that are willing to take kids of all ages. However, the older the child gets, it seems to be harder to find a placement for that child. So teenagers, they're in the greatest need of homes, and we would really like to try and find some homes for those older children.
I kind of work I guess when kids are exiting foster care. I guess there's 3 ways. The kids could be either reunified with their parents, or it could end in guardianship and adoption. And I would help those foster parents draw up like a guardianship subsidy, where we pay for the actual guardianship, daycare, maintenance, and respite. And so it's not like they're totally out of foster care, because we kind of still are in the picture. Just say if a foster parent has trouble with their monthly maintenance, they can call and ask about that. Or if a kid has never been to daycare, they can say, hey, I'm starting this job with different hours, and we can enter a daycare authorization for them to get that going. Or if they're having trouble out of a kid, we could kind of have like a staffing and just give them all of their options on things they can do to help the kid and things like that. And I also do the adoption. So if a family has had guardianship of a kid more than 6 months, they can call and say, hey, I would like to adopt this kid, and we start that process. So I kind of call it like the exiting of foster care, but not really.
Well, I won't take up much time since we've already talked. And I'm just going to give a few numbers. Around the world, we have over 20,000 children, or let's say older youth, who exit foster care every year. Again, as Ms. Freeman said, it's a struggle trying to find homes for our older youth that are in care. For Scott County alone, we have over 171 kids that are in care, so in custody at this point. And for the number of children that are 18 or older, we've got 8 children that are 18, and then we've got 22 that is going to be coming up that will be 18 and possibly exiting out of care. So we're just trying to bring focus on our older youth, trying to find more resources to try and assist them as they do age out of the system. We're just using this revenue as just trying to bring more awareness and just trying to find more resources to help them as they transition into adulthood.
I'm Steve Gentry. Like I said, I was a foster parent for Bullinger, Cape, and Perry counties, and I think they have over 400 right now that are in foster care. And in my personal experience, I fostered 38 children, and have one sitting right here beside me. And one story I'd love to tell would be that in 2011, when the tornado hit out at Joplin, I was in the foster care system where I was the president of the Cape chapter, and we took a bunch of blankets and clothes and stuff like that out to Joplin. But on the way, we stopped at what's the name of that, Jordan? Branson, and we stayed out there, and we went to a little pub at night, and I took my 3 that I had with me, and we was sitting in there, and here come this guy in, and I thought, wow, that looks like Johnny Morris. So any of you guys that knows what Johnny Morris is, he's the owner of Bass Pro, and he come in there with a bunch of big guys, and so I asked the waitress, I said, is that Johnny Morris? And she said, yes. And I said, you think he'd come over here and talk to these kids, you know? And she said, well, she had asked him. So I saw her go over there, and he turned around, he looked at us. So in a little bit, he come over and introduced ourselves, and he got down on his knees and talked to this 6-year-old boy that was beside me, and it was great. So he invited us to the Springfield Bass Pro, and he gave all the kids a $100 gift card so they could go shopping. And inside Bass Pro is his living quarters are in there, but a lot of people don't know that. And so we got to go visit the tuna rooms, what they call it, and that was one of my great experiences as being a foster parent. And along the way, I fostered a little boy that had cerebral palsy, blind, couldn't speak, couldn't walk. Fed him with a feeding tube. I learned this, and I had him in my system for about a year and a half. So I'd like to pass it on to Jordan. This is my son right here that I adopted out of the foster care system.
I'm Jordan. I was in foster care, and my dad, he adopted me.
Voices for Children CASA, we recruit, train, mentor, and supervise community volunteers just like yourselves. No special requirements needed to be a volunteer. You just have to be compassionate, love children, want to make a difference in the life of a child, change a child's story. So currently we're talking about numbers. There are 605 children in the circuits that we serve, which are the 32nd and 33rd, like I said before, which encompasses 5 counties in southeast Missouri. After COVID, we had a huge reduction in the number of our volunteers, and so we're really working hard to try to market to the communities so that we can get more volunteers, because obviously the more volunteers we have, then the more children we can serve that are in foster care. I will wait and hold it for questions later if you have any, and I'll pass it on to Don.
So if I can echo one thing, as an attorney, I'm typically one of the court parties, depending upon and what role I'm in for that case. Because remembering that when a kiddo's in foster care, there's going to be some kind of an AC case, or there's some kind of a case going on in the background, and sometimes there's family support team meetings, and there's a process that goes through as these kiddos go from usually the goal is to return home, but that's not always the case. And this is something I've said before to Natural Mom and Natural Dad. As adults, we can make a bad decision. We live with our consequences. But the thing about kids, they don't get that. They get to live with whatever consequences get handed to them. So it's so important to have foster placements out there, because there have been times over the years that we have literally changed the way we were interacting with a case because maybe we didn't have a place to put a particular kiddo. One thing that was brushed on just slightly was about special needs. I come from I grew up in a home that did emergency placement. My mom, I was the youngest of 6 kids, and my mom, it was her ministry. It was what she did. We would get a knock on the door at 10 o'clock at night, and this state would have 3 kids and 1 diaper and go. And we had the ability to do that. Then later on in life, my wife is an occupational therapist. Her ministry is the special needs. Some of these kiddos coming in the system have special needs. They can be sensory, they could be autistic, they could have medical special needs, and sometimes it takes it takes somebody with the right soul to be able to interact with that kiddo and make them feel safe. And we talk about making a kiddo feel safe or changing a kiddo's story. And really that is the name of the game. And it's not something that everybody can do, and I respect that. But so many of us get to the point in our lives, my kids are grown. I've got one child left at home, and she'll be leaving soon. I am not so old that I couldn't take care that we've still got 3 bedrooms downstairs. And there are so many people similarly situated to us. And like I say, my appeal would be for those people.
And just to touch on that again, so where we come into play again is those volunteers that come on and become a CASA. They go through a very rigorous training. That's usually the thing that puts people off. It's 30 hours. It's 15 hours in-person training and then 15 hours online training. And through that training, we bring in somebody from the juvenile office, somebody from children's division. We bring a guardian ad litem in. So they get just a huge overview of how all of the organizations work together. And then once they get through their training, then they go before the court in the county that they're going to serve or the circuit they're going to serve, and they become court-appointed special advocates, a CASA. The judge actually appoints you. And so our program is very unique in that respect, that we're the only one in the country that is an actual program that's becomes a party to the court. And so those volunteers are then assigned a case. Some of our volunteers are rock stars and work 2 or 3 cases. But then they go out and they become an investigator. They learn everything there is to know about these children, everything. And then they write court reports, and then those judges read those court reports, and that helps them base their decision as to whether a child will be number one priority, like Don said, is reunification. So whether or not they're reunified with the biological parents, or if they will move on to guardianship or placed up for adoption.
I'd just like to comment that if I was able to right now, that I would still be foster parenting if circumstances was, but I enjoyed it very much.
I will add, with it being May, with it being National Foster Care this month, we started highlighting some of the foster parents that we do have to hear their stories. We have a lot of successes from our foster parents, a lot of great stories. Some foster parents have taken in children who were behind in school, doing really bad, to graduating early from high school with a job, working on college education planning, owning a car. So the process, itself can be heartbreaking, but it can also be very rewarding, and just to give those kids a change in their life, that's really what we need. Also, if foster care isn't for you, like I said, we have other ways that you can help, with respite or emergency care, but, just community resources to reach out and just to make a difference in the kid's life is, what we really want.
Well, our panelists have a lot of knowledge, a lot of information, which they've actually just gave you a little bit, and a lot of it's different aspects of foster care. And one of the things that we have to realize is that these are kids. The kids that are actually growing up, torn, as you guys said, in families, not knowing what's going on. And imagine this, them going to school at the same time and having to deal with the kids in school. And I can imagine that's awkward, and sometimes they get bullied and things like that. But to have a foster family that would actually help mature them and develop them through all this, along with the CASA supporter to actually help guide them, is an amazing thing. I mean, people don't realize the significance of these tools for the kids. They just don't plop down on the ground and guide themselves. we as a community have to actually help out in some way or another. In Scott City alone, you were saying that the numbers in the Scott County and Scott City are about 171. As I understand, that since COVID, before COVID it was about, statewide it was about 3,000, and now it's almost up to 6,000 to 9,000. That's a lot. Just imagine during that time of COVID, as you guys were talking about, hadn't been reported a lot of the things. And there was a lot of numbers that we didn't even know about, and a lot of the kids were actually probably having a hard time. And if we come down to a realistic viewpoint, the kids are our future in our community, and them going through all these things have an effect on our community too. And we just got to realize that, especially in Foster Awareness Month, that that kid that is in a foster family or doesn't have a home can grow up to be something special, no matter what. And as I understand, there's a lot of kids right now, because of the numbers, that are actually in group homes too, because there's not enough placements, which is hard. I mean, imagine being a kid, being surrounded with a bunch of other kids with no guidance, no family, and how would you feel about that? I mean, it's not easy. So my question to the panels is that how can we actually convince people to actually care and actually take on some of the responsibility of maybe helping out in one form or another form, so these kids, especially in the group homes, aren't lost and trying to survive by swimming.
Yeah, I know our volunteers, our CASA volunteers, they advocate for children birth through 18 years of age, but at 14 we have our Fostering Futures program, and that program is wonderful because then what our volunteers do is they kind of kick into a different gear, and instead of advocating for the child, they start mentoring the child, so that children ages 14 to 21 are able to have all the tools they need to successfully transition from foster care to adulthood. And that is extremely important, as you know, as someone in the panel said earlier, that those older, I mean, we have to catch those older youth before they transition out. And by having someone, you know, a constant in their life. So Children's Division, I can tell you, I know the Children's Division workers, they are overworked, they have so many cases, they are not able to put in as much time with these children as a CASA volunteer can. I mean, we have CASA volunteers that spend anywhere between 4 to 24 hours a month with their kids. They don't have to, then, you know, 4 hours is about a general requirement, but we have some that just go over the top to make sure that these children are getting every single thing that they need. Children's Division does a great job, the juvenile office, the guardian ad litem. I mean, it takes a full team to do this. And we need people in the community to really step up and get involved, just on every level, whether you're fostering, whether you're volunteering to be a CASA, to, you know, provide a voice for those children and, you know, that are in care, just anything. And spreading the word, that's where it starts. Word of mouth is the best, you know, that's the best walking, talking advertisement you've got right there. And so just when you leave here today, you know, I'm kind of asking you to share this panel, share the story with 3, 4, 5 other people. You'd be surprised how that will snowball, you know, and if you just touched one person and they step forward, that's, you know, that's one, you know, case of children that you might be able to assist.
Yeah, I've actually had a CASA that was taking one of my kiddos to school every day because that's just what needed to be done. And like, they are holy warriors when it comes. And something I wanted to key onto too. We talk about this kid or that kid. Understanding sibling placement is usually, when I say usually, like 99%. You know, we default towards sibling placement. The sibling relationship is the only relationship that we have from the cradle to the grave. Our siblings are the only ones that walk this entire life with us. And a lot of these kiddos are coming out of some circumstances where they don't have a lot of stability. So in any way, when we can preserve that sibling relationship, we do. So when you have a home that can take three, and I've got cases right now with one with 5, one with 6. That's really difficult. That's tough. And I mean, we've got cases where we've got the boys going here and the girls going here, and they may not be seeing each other as much as I would like them to be. Where, you know, when you have somebody that can step up and take an entire cadre, an entire family of kids, it is so much better. Because especially for those very, very young ones, a lot of these sibling groups, the older sibling may have been the caregiver. I've got a kiddo. She's in APLA right now. She's aging out, but I got her when she was maybe 13, and she was an adult way faster than what she probably should have been. But she was the caregiver. So when we split those people up, you take a 3-year-old away from a 13-year-old. When to that 3-year-old, that 13-year-old is just the same thing as mom. That can be a tough spot too. So when we have those, and we've got some rock stars. I mean, we've got some folks up in Perryville that I don't even know how they do what they do. We've got folks all over the place that have really stood in the gap for these kids. But I just wanted to make the point that, like I say, a lot of times it's not a singular child. A lot of times it's a sibling group.
Well, the 3 that I adopted was a sibling group, and we got them at age 9, 5, and a newborn baby. So that's how long we've had ours. So.
I just want to touch a little bit on some of the trauma of when, it's not easy being a foster parent, and we know that. You're going to have these children in your home 24/7. You're providing, you are the caretaker. So I just want to touch on that a little bit. And, but taking in that child, and seeing them through all of the issues that they face. Not only are they going to, think about all the stuff that happened in the home, the reason they come out of the home, and as Mr. Cobb said, the siblings, being able to be placed with your sibling is one of the most rewarding that you can have for a sibling group. But I guarantee you, if you take in these children, weather through the storm with them, that is just the most rewarding thing in the world that you can, do for these kids. I don't know no other way to put it than, they're needing someone that is going to take a chance on them. They're needing someone that is going to fill in that gap for them. So yes, we are reaching out, to our communities, to our local agencies for all of the help we can to recruit for more foster parents, because without you, we cannot do this. We cannot do this alone. We need everyone involved in order to, make a change in the way that, we are just trying to get our children to grow. So yes, we are reaching, we are wanting to reach out. We're hoping that we can seek and get more foster parents. And again, it's the most rewarding thing in the world when you, as children's service workers, having to sit at the office with a child, trying to find a home for a child, believe me, that it tears at your heart. So please, if we can, just more foster homes, anyone that is willing, we are willing to take you through the process.
And I can imagine that that child, as you just pointed out, might feel like they did something wrong, and that they're being punished. And to have someone to actually come in there, grab them in the sense of you're okay, and we're here to actually help guide you and make it right. Would be an amazing thing for the child, and it's a needed thing. Steve, my question for you too is, for a lot of people, they don't really know about foster care. They don't know if they can do it. They don't know if they have the time or the money or the space. I mean, you know all those questions that you go in your mind, as far as an adult thinking that if you can take on that responsibility. Could you address that along with the positives?
Well, I had a back injury, and I was just sitting at home and nothing to do. So we saw something on foster care, and then we got a hold of the Cape people at Cape. Linda Hodges was her name. I don't know if you all remember her or not, but we went and we took our lessons and had our background checks and passed. And I think as soon as we passed, I believe it probably wasn't a week till we had 3 children in our home. So there was a need for it then, and there's a need for it now. And if you got the bedrooms and your home passes, I mean, you can be a foster parent.
Okay. Do we have any questions from the audience? Hold on a minute.
You said there were 171 children in this area in foster care. Are they being fostered in this area, or are they out in other areas of the state?
For Scott County in our, thank you. For Scott County. And Scott County serves Oran, Chaffee, Morley, Scott City. Don't want to leave out Scott City. Wyatt, Sykeston, and Charleston. Those are it's Mississippi and Scott County. Out of those counties is 171 children that are currently in custody at this time.
Okay, but are they in custody in these counties, or are they
Yes.
like in Kansas City or?
No.
Okay.
They are placed in our counties. And out of Scott City now, there are, I counted, I did a little research even before coming. There are 10 foster homes alone in Scott City.
And how many of those kids are there any kids in the group homes because they don't have any?
I know that just recently we had to place a child in an emergency residential, and it's not due to behavioral. I'm sorry. And it's not due to maybe a behavioral reason, just due to the fact that we cannot find a foster placement.
And to kind of add to that, when a child does come into care, we want to keep them in the county that they're from, because you have to think these kids, they're in school, they have their friends. We don't want to take them away from that and lose all relationships that they have. However, if there is not enough homes in the county in order to take them, then we have no choice but to maybe place them outside of that county. And that child's going to have to start all over at a new school and make new friendships, and any ties that they had, they're gone. So that's why we need more homes, and we want to keep them local.
And I can imagine just during that time that traumatizes them even more so, of not only being separated from family and friends, it's also making them feel alone even more so, on top of that, being in a different place, in a different town, and a different school. Anyone else have any other questions? Hold on a minute.
I am one of the foster children provider, and I'll tell you what, your heart can open up to these kids, and they can make you a family. It's hard at times. We got good caseworkers here, and I know Miss Sarah and all of them there. They will help you in every which way. But you got to imagine, if these are your kids, if something's happened to one of your children, God forbid an accident or something, and you wasn't able, and they needed a home. You want to make sure they're in a good home. We all got to work together, all of us. This is our future. you know, we've got to provide. And if we don't provide for them, what's going to happen to them? We don't want them out on the streets. We want to give them a family till they can go back home to their family. And if we don't work together, it's not going to happen. So we have to work together. These ladies has helped me a lot. The gentleman here has helped me a lot. And if we don't pull together, we have nobody but ourselves to blame in any way we can help. If it's not foster, like they said, respite. If we can do respite or we can help in CASA or something, we've got to pull together. I've been doing this off and on for 15 years. And we have adopted 2 recently, a 14 and 17-year-old. But we just ask help, just like you would your family member. These could have been your family, and let's make them our family.
I know a lot of community don't, I would say the cities and the communities don't realize that these kids are like the seeds. And it's the matter of how you actually develop that seed, water the plant, till it, nurture it. And the odd thing is, if you don't intervene as a community to help these kids out, what's going to actually happen? It's going to perpetuate, and they're not going to get the guidance, and they're not going to get the maturity to actually be adults. They're going to actually end up, as you guys said, being on the street or just going back to the old habits of what their family went through, and going through the whole situation again. Anyone else have any questions on the panel?
I was going to ask the CASA lady, like, to be a volunteer, is that more like the big brother, big sister type thing, or?
Oh, it goes a lot beyond
Oh,
that.
it goes behind, oh, okay.
So basically what happens is once you go through the training and you go before the judge and you become sworn in as a court-appointed special advocate, then you become a party to the case. So you're going to sit at the table with people that you're seeing up here at these family support team meetings, and you're going to be making some tough decisions, you know, with them. So your voice is going to carry on into court through that court report. Like I said, the judge reads everything, but just a typical day, it would be that say that you only had 2 children, only because we have a CASA right now, and she has 2 cases she's working, and there are 7 children in each case, multiple dads in each of these families. So that's the one that works 24 hours, you know, a month, puts in. But just on an average case, say there's 2 children in the case, you're going to find out everything about little Susie and Johnny that you can find out. You're going to talk to their teachers. You're going to talk to their doctors if they have counselors, anybody, you know, the bio parents, the placement providers, foster parents, or we call them placement providers. Anybody that you can talk to that has any information to give you on that child, and you are going to log every single bit of it. And then once you do that, then you'll write your court report, and then that's submitted to the judge. The judge reads that. You'll go to the support team meetings and, you know, family support team meetings. There will be hearings, so there could be a termination, a TPR, a termination of parental rights. You know, you have to be strong enough to put your voice in. I mean, if you don't believe that the parent's right should be terminated, you have to fight for why you don't. Otherwise, you know, if everybody else on the team says, yes, this is the best, you know, the best interest of the child, then, you know, you let them sway you. I mean, it always boils down at the end of the day to the best interest of the child. Right. And so, and then you follow them through until the court, you know, until the case closes, whether that is through reunification or guardianship or adoption. So you would follow them through.
Okay, thank you.
So as a CASA, and like she was saying, you're actually a party to the case. And when we go to these FSTs, these family support teams meetings, you know, natural mom, natural dad, they're going to have attorneys too. Let me let you in on a little secret. Their attorneys probably secretly agree with everything that you're saying, but sometimes it can feel a little bit adversarial because we may be assigned to represent somebody's interest. And as lawyers, we take an oath to zealously represent whatever client it is. that we've been given. Sometimes those folks are not, they may not have real sympathetic stories. You know, they may be challenged with some chemical dependency. That's usually what it is, but it may not. I don't know. But sometimes that can happen as a CASA. You can have. I've had CASAs that I don't represent a lot of natural moms, natural dads, but I have. Most of the time, I'm the guardian ad litem. But a strong CASA can, because what we're talking about, the best interest of the child, it's actually a two-pronged analysis. One, and I'm not going to get too deep into it, but is there a constitutional taking? Assuming that there is, now we gauge the best interest of the child with some factors that, but the CASA is kind of the eyes and the ears of the court, because as an attorney, if I'm representing one of the parents, I'm going to hold whatever position, protects their interest. Where CASA is not really bound to that; they're just what's best for this kiddo.
An unpaid neutral party.
Pastor Bob, and again, we're at the Restoration Community Church. Do you have any questions?
I think Melissa was already asked. One of my questions that I hear a lot about is, as the child is placed and then picked up and moved like every few months, every 3 months, and some of the parents that I talked to were just like, why? Why do they have to be? And they seem to just getting rooted, and why would they have to be picked up and put into another one through this whole process? I don't know. I see it as. Go ahead.
That's happened to me several times, where the child comes to the house and we probably had them for like 3 months, and then all of a sudden they just up and moved. Division of Family Services just ups and moves them, and I was always for stability for that child. The longer they stayed with the foster parent, I feel they was it was better for that child to stay long term.
So sometimes you'll have a situation to where maybe a kiddo is just not a great fit in a particular placement, or some of the other peer groups, some of the other peer kiddos that are in that home. I think of one particular kiddo that she was kind of a solitary kid. She just, that's the lie. I mean, these kids are not coming to you as a blank slate. They're coming to you as, whatever collection of their experiences. And we had her in a family that they wanted everybody to sit at the kitchen table at 6 o'clock and have a meal and share and sit and watch TV together and read books together. And they, go on, trips in a camper. And to this kiddo, it just wasn't a great fit, and it was causing tension throughout. So sometimes that'll happen, that you can. It's nobody's fault. I mean, it's just sometimes situations just aren't great fits. And when we typically find that out from the CASA, that's usually where that happens. Because as a guardian ad litem, I'm probably not with that kiddo enough, but it's a CASA that we usually say, yeah, do we got anything else? Other things that can happen that can cause us to move a child. Remembering some of these, you got different kinds of care. What we're talking about here is AC, alternative care. There's also family-centered FCS cases, but these kids are coming out of some circumstances where there may have been some criminal behavior, there may have been abuse or neglect, there may be a reason that we want to get the child further away. That can happen, and we put a kiddo somewhere until we find a place where they might be longer. So there's a lot of different things going on, and each individual case is going to be different, and unfortunately, there's a lot of times that the families may say, hey, we want to move, or we're going to take a different job, or life happens, and then they can't have 4 kids in the house anymore.
I agree with everything you said. That is generally the biggest is. We have a young man. He's been in care since he was 9. He's getting ready to turn 16. He came with a whole host of issues, and I think he's been placed. I believe he's maybe in his 6th or 7th home. in that short period of time. And a lot of that is self-destruction. He brings that on himself. So he self-sabotages. You know, there was a time when he was very close to being adopted, and then he self-sabotaged that.
Process when a child comes into foster care, the first thing is we're going to work on a reunification. If at all costs that we can get that child back into the home, that's what we want to do. But if we're placing a child in a foster home, our stance is, or our hopes, is that that child is going to remain in that placement until we can get them back either in the home, we get another permanent plan, you know, a permanency plan, whether that permanency plan is going to be adoption, guardianship, reunification, or whatever, the APLA, which is another planned permanent living arrangement. So it just depends on what that goal is. But moving a child from home to home is not our goal. Believe me, we want that child to remain in one placement. We try to prevent the disruption of a placement. If there's issues in the home, we know that you know, as I stated, a child is going to come in with trauma. They're not in foster care just because they want to be. They're in foster care because something happened. So just working through that, we would not intentionally, I just want that to be known, we would not intentionally put a child in a home and then, not saying that that's not, you know, I don't know, but we are not going to remove a child. If they are thriving in that foster home, we want them to stay there. But, you know, I can even attest to Miss Waite. She just had some children that went home on a trial home visit, and that's because the children, you know, the family was doing what was needed. They made the behavioral changes, and the children were, you know, went home. And when they're on a trial home visit, we don't just get out of it. We're not saying that the parent did everything, you know, and then we just put them back in the home, and then, you know, sometimes it doesn't go well once they are on a trial home visit. So we remain in that case up to, and it may be longer, 180 days. And that's the normal length of a trial home visit. Sometimes things happen. And the reason that we do the trial home visit is that if something does occur within that 180 days, all we have to do is just go back, get the child, find another placement, and then let's start this all over again. But not saying that we're not going to continue to work with the parent. But again, it just depends on what that goal is as well. So, but I just wanted to clear that we prefer for a child to have as less placements as, you know, possible, but sometimes that just doesn't happen. And we do result in where a child is moved and they've done had 6 places, you know, 6 placements, eventually going to residential and all of that. But believe me, we would prefer for a child to stay in one placement until we can reach that permanency for that child.
Are you talking about like the kids that my dad like foster cared, or? I know my brother. He is a buddy that we're real close with, and he was in foster care, and his dad adopted him. How long was he in there for? He's probably 20. He's probably 24. He's in there several years. Now he's Missouri State Highway Patrol.
Okay, one of the things I would like to ask the panelists, let's say if I'm an individual or a family that, okay, I can't really do foster care right now, don't know if I can take the time to do with CASA, what else can we actually do to help support the foster family?
Share the messages that we're sharing with all of you today. just reach out and talk to your friends about it. I mean, if you're not in a position to do either one of those, maybe somebody you talk to will be.
Respite. Because even if, I mean, we've had respite care for 3 hours. We've had, I mean, sometimes one particular case I'm thinking of, we had a foster mom that needed to take her mother to the hospital in St. Louis and didn't feel it would be appropriate to take the 4 smaller children. A couple of these kids had some sensory issues where they probably didn't need to be going up there. Things like that. That doesn't take a lot. Well, I mean, it does take a lot, but most people can do respite.
Yeah. It's a shorter term. It's not a long-term commitment. CASA is a long-term commitment. Fostering is a long-term commitment. But respite, it's like he said, 3 hours to a week maybe. It can vary.
And that's what I also agree with the respite care. Respite care, it gives the foster parents a break for, if they have something going on, it gives them that break. And if you're unsure you're ready to actually foster kids, respite care is great because you get to talk to that foster parent and learn the ins and outs. And that's how you communicate and see what it's really like when you have that interaction with them. And the more you do it, the more you're going to realize, hey, it's not as bad as, I thought it was going to be, let's give it a shot. And I mean, it's easy to do. Another thing is if you're not ready, for respite care, we need support for our foster parents that we do have, and the children that we have in care. So, I mean, even if it's just, hosting a community event for the kids, they can get out and do something, or for the foster parents to get together and interact, and talk and get help from each other. That's also a great way to help out.
Is there any other questions from the panels or from the audience? How about the panelists? I mean, after all the questions that are actually given to you and all the information that you're listening from each organization, are there any questions you have for each other or thoughts for each other? Nothing. Yes.
I would like to see some of us get together and be able to help each other out. I had talked to Miss Sarah about us, even just, I work, and there's sometimes my girl gets track meeting, and I have to make sure to get back in time to get her. Even if we just share some time, maybe if you help me out with something, I help you out with something with the kids. If our community can get together, it helps all of us for everything. I just think it's important that, because I do work and I do have foster children, I am a respite license as well. If we can just pull together as a community, let's not let a storm come in and do it. Let's just our love reach out and help each other.
That's true. It's the love of the community.
I just wanted to ask, what made you get into foster parenting?
Well, like I said, I had a back injury, and I was home all day by myself, and we saw this ad, or people wanting to be needing foster parents in Cape County. So we went to the meetings, and so we just, from there on, we just fostered for like 16 years. So we all had good kids. I mean, there wasn't no bad kids in the whole bunch. I mean, we took them everywhere. We treated them just like our kids. We took them everywhere we went, and treated them right. So to just let you know, there is places like the Children's Home in Cape that has clothes, and you can get diapers and stuff like that. I still believe that. I've been out of the system for 6-7 years, so I think there's a lot of help out there for foster parents. Yeah, hope for one more. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.
How many foster parents are there in Scott County that are actually registered right now? Do we know?
somewhere. Oh, 74.
74. And you were
70.
saying there's 179 kids?
There's 171 kids, and we've got the 74 foster homes. So, and you're taking, I mean, there's big sibling groups, like he said, the 7 siblings. We've got several of those,
That's a big number changer right there.
And that's like one thing, those foster homes, their families just like you and me, so they have their own children in the home also. So, you think I have, there's 74 homes and only, 170 kids, but, if that foster family already has 3 kids of their own, they're only going to be able to take 1 or 2 at the most, depending on how much room they have in that house.
And there's a difference when I'm given that number. Only 22 are foster homes. The 52 are relatives. So we try to reach out to the relatives at all costs, but if we can't find a relative, that's where the foster comes in at. So we really don't even have that many foster homes.
And I can imagine, I understand that as far as finding placement with the family, but and also finding an aunt, uncle, grandmother, grandfather, whoever. But I also know, and sometimes in those situations too, it's a 50-50 because you don't know if they're getting them into another bad situation, and
Yes.
you're always probably wanting to have a fallback as far as a foster family, just in case it doesn't work out the way that you want. So
Always.
from those numbers that you're saying, you're still short.
Yes.
And I think that's a big issue, and that's something that hopefully as a community, again, with the awareness, we can actually help change.
And I believe back at my time when I was doing it, there was 6 children. It was all you could have at one time.
Well, really, it was only you could have 5. Now they raised it up to 6. Yes. So thank goodness for that. Thank God for that.
Any last minute things that people in the audience might have questions? Yep.
Is there and I don't know, because it's a joy being just part of SCIPP, this amazing group of people, but is there a foster parent festival day? I don't know what you would call it, but is it a day where where it's actually specific that any foster parent and their kids can come out and like have a festival day or something that's dedicated? We seem to have a day of everything else for the year. I just wondered, is there a day where all these families can get together at a park, like whatever you would call it, foster day awareness, and I'll bring out the kids, bring your family if you got them, bring them out, and it's all kind of a festival day.
We actually have a skate day at the skate arena in Sykeston, May 25th. I think it's 6 to 8. Really everything's free as far as admission and food. And then we're also trying to do like other things. Like last year for Halloween, we had a trunk or treat at the office. So we are trying to do different things like that. So.
And one thing about that is one thing we want to do is to try and get these kids and foster parents together, as much as possible, because for one, the children, it might be hard for them to make friends, with them being in foster care, but somebody else being in foster care, they're going to be the only person that knows how that person feels, what they're going through. So, like the state itself, I mean, there's not really a lot of funding there, for events such as that. So that's why we try to reach out to the community, see if anybody, will want to partner up with us to put on something like that, to give the kids a chance to do something and for the foster parents to interact together and get that participation.
With SCIPP, I think might be talking for everyone, hopefully, that I think down the line I might have a facility for a get-together in middle of Scott County to actually have a foster care day with the families. So
I'm just thinking that at a festival like that, you would have possibly, okay, so if you have a, say, 15-year-old, 16-year-old, and maybe an easy favorite that, or your girl wants to be a news reporter, or maybe wants to go be a police officer, maybe wants to be a fireman, that would lead to some kind of mentorship, even though they're in the system, they can still get their mentorship one-on-one. Maybe there's a group officer, maybe there's a fireman, maybe there's a doctor, nurse, or somebody from our media on the news that would say, hey, I'm open to mentor somebody in this foster care so that they don't have to wait, so there's still that sense of normalcy. They have stuff offered to them. And I don't know if they have that. I'm just saying, I know it takes resources, but this is where I see the churches coming in and saying, look, if we can gather up enough churches, and if everybody puts a little bit in the pot for a specific program like that, then they can have a mentor. Because it was important to me to think about this when government, they always had mentorship programs. Somebody wanted to be a mayor. That person's shadow, like they set their schedules. The mayor would meet that youth once a month to show them this is what it looks like. So, it's just some possibilities.
Any last minute things?
Yes. So CASA has done some things with foster, kids in place in foster care and with their providers. We've done swimming. We've got them together to do swimming. I would love to get, since we do cover the 32nd and 33rd Circuit, just work together. We've done things with having a picnic in the park for the kids. We've partnered with the Greek organization at SEMO to do that. And then just to have a day where maybe we could rent the Cape Splash and have just a foster care day with kids at Cape Splash so they can just go and just be kids. They don't have to worry about anything else, meet their peers. And I don't know, I think there needs to be more activities like that. I really do. And support for the placement providers, foster care parents.
I'd like to thank all the audience and also everyone as far as listening to this. I also like to thank the panelists. And I also like to thank Restoration Community Church for allowing this to happen here. I think the key issue, again, such a wonderful month, foster awareness, for us to be aware and knowledgeable of how to grow those seeds in our community for the future. So we'd like to thank you and look forward to seeing you again.